Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. Do you ever wonder why arousal used to come so easily, but now feels very out of reach for you? In this episode, I'm going to break down the myth that arousal just happens, and I'm going to show you how to actively step into desire. You're going to learn practical strategies to invite arousal, enjoy sex more fully, and finally stop dreading those dry spells and actually get rid of them altogether. Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, the podcast for Catholic women that helps you improve your sex life, strengthen your marriage, and embrace God's design for love. My name is Ellen Holloway, and let's get started. Today, I want to talk about how arousal is not a passive thing that happens to us. I think a lot of times when we think about arousal, we automatically we're like, that is something that just happens to me. Like my body just gets aroused when I want to have sex. And the thing is, we can't just put arousal in this passive little box over here, because if we do, then we're never going to desire sex. We're never going to get aroused, or it's going to happen very rarely. And this is a big problem. Because it is super easy to say, oh, arousal is this passive thing, and then just complain about it, and then never really desire to have sex, never really enjoy our sex life, never really grow in our sex life. And so I want to talk to you about how arousal is something that we need to actively, intentionally engage in. And we need to intentionally allow arousal to happen so that we're excited for sex. So first thing, and this is just sort of a reiteration of what I just said. Don't expect arousal to just happen. Yes, it may have just happened early on in your marriage, before you got married. And the reason for that is because there's so much newness. There's so much, just excitement around a new marriage, having sex for the first time and living together. There's so much surrounding getting married that arousal is often just instant and automatic in those first couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe even the first couple of years, if you had kind of a long honeymoon period. And we look at that period and we're like, oh, wow, arousal just happened. So that's what's normal. And that's not true, because arousal wasn't just happening. You were intentionally allowing it to happen. You were actively participating in the arousal process, as in you were excited. This was new. This was something that was on your mind. Probably a lot more than it is now, if you're experiencing this fact that arousal doesn't happen very often for you. So if we're feeling like I'm just never in the mood to have sex, it's because we are not engaging in the process. Getting in the mood for sex is something that you can actively do. You are allowed to get yourself in the mood for sex. Fully allowed. And I want to talk to you about what does that mean? Because I'm not telling you to touch yourself and get yourself in the mood for sex. Not at all. Please do not ever misunderstand me in that area. I'm talking about your environment, your mindset, the things you think about, the things you allow yourself to think about, the things you don't think about. I'm talking about physical touch from your spouse, allowing those touches, reveling in those touches, not just brushing the touches off. And focusing on the present moment, where you're at, and the desire to get in the mood. Another spot, or another thing that I hear a lot is just a blanket blaming of hormones. Oh, I'm just older. That's why I can't get in the mood anymore. I have 3 kids. That's why I can't get in the mood anymore. I must have some sort of hormonal imbalance. I'm not sleeping, so obviously my hormones are imbalanced. Please stop telling yourself that, because it's not helping. And I can guarantee 95% of you, your hormones are within the normal range. It has nothing to do with a hormonal imbalance as to why you can't get in the mood. You can't get in the mood because you're not actually trying to get in the mood. You're wanting it to passively happen to you. You're wanting it to just like happen and not have to put any effort toward it, but you have to put effort toward it. Like, let's do the thing that we do often on this podcast. Let's talk about how prayer is related to sex. Yeah, it would be super awesome if like I just always wanted to pray and I never had to put any active effort toward it. That would be amazing. But that's not how my prayer life works. And I'm pretty sure it's not how your prayer life works either. I have to actively set aside time. I have to think about it. I have to sit down and get my book or get my journal or get my Bible, whatever I'm praying with at that moment, grab my rosary, do my chaplet, right? I have to be active about my prayer life in order for it to flourish. And when I am actively pursuing my prayer life, I'm enjoying it a whole lot more. And I'm actually doing it. But when I don't actively pursue my prayer life, when I don't set aside that 30 minutes in the morning for my quiet prayer time, when I don't set aside the 10 minutes to do the chaplet, let's be honest, the 5 minutes to do the chaplet of Divine Mercy at 3 p.m., when I don't do those things, my prayer life suffers, and it suffers in such a way that it just doesn't even happen. Now, I hope you're already seeing the connection that I'm going to make here, but I'll make it super obvious, right? If we're not actively trying to get ourselves in the mood for sex, our sex life probably won't really happen. And maybe it will, right? Because you also have your husband who is pursuing the sexual relationship. And sometimes that can feel more present to you than like how God is pursuing your prayer life. Because obviously God is like always in pursuit of you praying, but we don't like physically see him in front of us and he's not physically asking us to pray. But your husband is. So that's actually kind of nice that we have this other human who is like standing there also pursuing our sex life, because our sex life is so important. It's so good for our marriage. I think I'm getting off on a bit of a tangent here, but active pursuit is necessary, right? So when I talked about like, I have to grab my book, I have to grab my journal and sit down to prayer time. And then I can get into prayer time, right? And the book and the journal, they help me enter into that prayer time. The same goes for getting in the mood. Maybe there are activities that you can do or thoughts that you can think or mental exercises you can do, or like cleaning up your bedroom is maybe an example, like getting your environment organized or whatever. Things that you can do that will get you in the mood to have sex and allow that arousal to actually happen, to actively pursue the situation that's going to like be open to arousal. All right. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop complaining that you're never in the mood. I want you to recognize that arousal happens when you give it the right attention. And the right attention is things like, right, cleaning up your environment, making your environment. Maybe it's lighting candles. Maybe it's a couple weeks ago we talked about a sex lamp on a podcast episode, right? Maybe it's getting a sex lamp that is like nice and warm and inviting, right? Maybe it's writing down all the thoughts that are swirling around in your mind so that they're like on a list and you won't forget them. Maybe it's sitting in front of a mirror and just like talking to yourself in positive, affirming language. There's actually like lots and lots of things that we can do. Maybe it's actually like dancing to a song that you really like in a sensual way, right? Like, or touching your arms, touching your neck, like getting in tune with your body and like helping it relax, helping it get into a spot where it's excited to be touched, to be loved, to be caressed, and to have sex and to like open up vulnerably to your spouse. Okay. And then I want you to shift your expectation, right? Arousal is not just something, like getting in the mood is not just something that happens to you. It is something that you can do and you can step into it. Arousal is a process. Getting in the mood for sex is a process. It's not a light switch. And it's okay that it's a process, right? And getting in the mood for sex is actually something, right? Like a lot of it has to do with your mindset. This is something you could be working on prior to being in front of your husband and initiating sex or responding to his initiation, right? Like you can be working on your mindset. You can be maybe anticipating an exciting evening in your head while you're washing the dishes. You can do that. You're allowed to do that. Did you know that? I really hope you knew that, but you are allowed to do that. And this is going to help you like get in the right frame, in the right mindset and really enjoy sex more. So when we are choosing to engage intentionally in getting in the mood and choosing to engage in sex intentionally, this is really going to strengthen your bond, strengthen your marriage. And it's going to bring more enjoyment of sex. Like if you are kind of walking around just frustrated that you're never in the mood for sex, frustrated that you never get aroused, then I can almost guarantee you're probably not enjoying sex very much. So if we can start walking around anticipating sex, being excited for sex, helping ourselves get in the mood for sex, then we're going to enjoy sex more. It's just like that just naturally flows, right? If we think about just anything in our lives, but let's just talk about like going to mass. If all morning we're sitting there dreading going to mass, do you think that we're going to have an enjoyable time at mass and a fruitful, open, prayer experience of mass? Probably not. And I think you can think back to when you were in, middle school or high school. And I know this was the case for me. I did not enjoy going to mass and I dreaded going to mass. And was mass enjoyable for me? No, it was not. But when I anticipate with excitement and joy that I'm going to have an opportunity to praise the Lord and to open up in prayer to him and receive him in Holy Communion, right? When I'm anticipating all those wonderful good things, then I'm already setting myself up for more openness to those good things. So the same exact thing happens with sex. If we can be intentionally allowing ourselves to be open and anticipating those good things about sex, then we're already going to naturally set ourselves up to actually enjoy sex more. All right, so if you listen to this episode and you're like, I'm ready for more, I need more of this in my life, I created a guide just for you. It is called the Getting in the Mood Guide. It is literally a guide chock full of completely licit, completely appropriate ways to get yourself, get out of your own head, right? And get in the mindset, get in the body posture, and just get in the mood for sex. So there's just a couple of the examples that I mentioned in this episode are in that guide, but then obviously there's a bunch more that I couldn't talk about in this episode. I mean, it would be like a several hour long episode. So I want you to go check that out. The link is going to be in the show notes. But I really want you to walk away with this extremely important understanding that arousal is not a passive thing. Arousal, we have to allow it to happen. We need to set ourselves up for the possibility of arousal. And that means setting up our environment. That means setting up our mind. That means setting up our body. And that's what intentionally getting in the mood does. Thanks so much for listening. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast, could you do me a favor really quick? Go into the podcast app that you are listening in. And if it gives you an option to rate and review, please rate and review this podcast. It helps us so much in reaching new listeners and spreading the word about this podcast. Thanks so much for listening.